The battlefield was a desolate expanse of cracked earth and smoldering ash, the remnants of the fierce aerial battle still fresh beneath the fading light of the volcanic sun. Kalen stood atop a jagged outcrop, his lean frame silhouetted against the glow of distant lava flows, eyes scanning the horizon where the Emberfang forces had retreated into the shadowed valleys. The air was heavy with the scent of burnt scales and singed feathers, a grim reminder of the cost paid in the name of survival. His rare serpent, now resting beside him with wings folded and chest rising in slow, steady breaths, was a living testament to their shared struggle. The bond they had forged in fire and flight was stronger than ever, yet even this triumph felt tempered by the weight of loss. Kellen's heart ached for the riders who would never return, their names etched in the silence that followed the storm. Lyra approached quietly, her footsteps soft on the ash-strewn ground. Her braided hair, streaked with ash gray, fluttered in the gentle breeze, carrying the distant rumble of the volcano's restless breath. "They fought bravely," she murmured, her sharp green eyes meeting Kellen's with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "We all did." He nodded, the shadows of self-doubt that had once plagued him now replaced by a cautious certainty. "But at what cost, Lyra? Our tribe is battered, our people weary. The scars of this battle run deeper than the wounds we can see." She reached out, gripping his arm with steady hands. "We're not defeated. Not if we stand together." Their words hung between them, a fragile promise amid the ruins of conflict. Back at the tribal council, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Skeptical elders, their faces lined with years of hardship and tradition, listened intently as Kalen stepped forward. His voice, once hesitant and shadowed by exile, now carried the strength of experience and vision. "This victory is not just ours to claim," he declared, "but a call to unity. The Emberfang have been driven back, but their fire still burns. If we fail to come together, we risk losing all we have fought for." Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some nods of agreement mingling with wary glances. The path to peace was fraught with political intrigue and old resentments. Yet Kalen's presence, bolstered by his bond with the legendary Serpent and the courage he had shown, demanded attention and respect. Eldrin, the elder with silver hair and molten lava eyes, rose to lend his voice to the call for unity. "The flames of war have scorched us, but from these ashes, a new spirit may rise. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to face it and move forward." Outside, the tribe gathered around a great fire, its flickering light casting long shadows on faces etched with grief and hope. A silent vigil was held for the fallen, Eldrin's ancient chant weaving through the night air, a balm for wounded souls and a beacon for the journey ahead. Kalen stood among his people, feeling the pulse of their collective spirit rekindling. The road to healing would be long and uncertain, but with every breath drawn beneath the volcanic skies, he vowed to lead them toward a future where fire would illuminate rather than destroy. As the embers glowed and the night deepened, Colin's thoughts turned to the horizon. Beyond the ash and smoke, new skies awaited, vast, open, and full of promise. His journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. And somewhere in the distance, the faint cry of a soaring serpent echoed a call to rise, to fly, to embrace the fire within. Dawn crept slowly over the volcanic ridges of Ashara, painting the sky in hues of molten gold and soft crimson. From the jagged cliff edge, I watched the land below, the patchwork of scorched earth, ash-streaked forests, and winding rivers glowing faintly under the morning light. My rare serpent Veilfire coiled beside me, her scales catching the sun's first rays and flickering like living embers. Around us, the murmurs of the gathered tribes rippled through the air, a fragile harmony between old rivals and wary allies. This moment was nothing like the days when I was shunned, an outcast branded by shame and fear. Now, as the chosen rider of a legendary sky serpent, I stood as a bridge between fractured clans, a symbol of hope born from fire and flight. The weight of that responsibility settled heavily on my shoulders, yet beneath, it stirred a fierce determination. Kaelin, Lyra's voice broke my reverie. She approached with careful steps, her braided dark hair catching the light, streaked with ash gray like the ashen skies we had come to know too well. Her sharp green eyes held an intensity that made my heart beat unevenly, a quiet storm of emotions I was still learning to navigate. "The others are ready to begin," she said, her tone steady but soft. "They look to you, to us, to this bond you share with Veilfire." I nodded, feeling the serpent shift beneath me, a reassuring presence. Then we give them a reason to believe. Together, we descended from the cliff to the heart of the encampment, where tribal leaders and riders from neighboring clans awaited. The air was thick with cautious expectation. Old wounds had not yet healed, but the promise of unity flickered in their eyes. Eldrin stood near the center, his silver hair glowing faintly in the dawn, eyes molten with wisdom and quiet pride. As I stepped forward, Eldrin's gaze met mine, and in that moment, I felt the burden of my past begin to lift. He spoke softly, his voice carrying like a steady flame through the morning chill. "The fire within you, Kaelin, is not just your own. It is the spark that can ignite the courage of many. Remember, true strength lies not in domination, but in the bonds we forge together." His words settled deep inside me, warming the cold doubts that had lingered too long. I turned to the assembled tribes, raising my hand to call for silence. We have all suffered separated by fear, by pride, by the scars of old battles. But today, we stand together to chart a new path. Veilfire and I are a symbol not of power over others, but of hope, courage, and the freedom flight can bring. Murmurs of agreement spread, tentative, but growing stronger. Lyra stepped beside me then, her presence a steady anchor. She caught my eye and smiled a gesture that carried more meaning than words. The air between us thickened with unspoken truths, promises waiting to be spoken aloud. Later, as twilight descended, we gathered around a roaring fire, its flames dancing against the darkening sky. Lyra's voice softened, trembling with vulnerability. "Kaelin, I have kept these feelings hidden for too long. You've always been more than a friend to me. Seeing you rise, facing every challenge with courage, it's made me realize how much you mean to me." My breath caught, the warmth of the fire mingling with the sudden heat in my chest. I reached for her hand, the connection steady and real. "Lyra, I feel the same, more than I ever dared to admit." Eldrin watched us quietly, a faint smile tracing his lips. "Love, like courage, is a flame that can light even the darkest nights," he said gently. "It strengthens the bonds that hold us together." The following days were a whirlwind of preparation and hope. I led joint training sessions with allied riders, Veilfire soaring alongside serpents from other tribes in graceful synchronized flight. The skies above Ashara transformed from arenas of conflict to canvases of unity, our serpent scales shimmering like embers against the brightening horizon. Every climb into the air, every shared maneuver, built trust where suspicion once festered. The rare serpent bond that had once marked me as an outcast now served as a beacon, inspiring others to embrace change and cooperation. The tribes began to see beyond old grievances, recognizing that together we were stronger against the threats looming beyond our borders. One evening, beneath a blanket of stars and the soft glow of a smoldering fire, Eldrin gathered us close. His voice carried the weight of countless seasons. "This new era is fragile, born from courage and understanding. We must nurture it with care, for the flames of division still smolder beneath the surface. But if we hold fast, the fire within us will light the way to a future where no rider is left behind." His words stirred something deep inside me, a resolve to protect this fragile peace, to lead not just with strength, but with heart. as I looked around at the faces illuminated by the firelight, the friends, the allies, the tribe. I knew the journey was far from over. But for the first time, the horizon before me was not just a distant dream, but a living possibility. The skies of Ashara no longer felt like a cage. They stretched endlessly, an invitation to soar beyond ash and smoke, to embrace the fire within and the bonds that gave us wings. And so, with Lyra by my side and Eldrin's wisdom in my heart, I stepped forward into the dawn of a new chapter, not just for me, but for all who dared to fly toward hope. The first light of dawn spilled over the jagged peaks and smoldering craters of Ashara, igniting the volcanic skies with hues of molten gold and fiery amber. I stood atop the broad, scaled back of my rare sky serpent, its sinewy muscles taut beneath me, feeling the stirring of wind and fire that had become as much a part of me as the blood beneath my skin. Around us, the tribe gathered riders perched upon their serpents, their faces alight with anticipation, their voices rising in a chorus of excitement and reverence. The air was thick with the scent of ash and the crisp breath of early morning, mingling with the distant rumble of the volcanoes that had shaped our home and our lives. This was no ordinary flight. It was a ceremony born from survival and redemption, a celebration of the tribe's endurance through fire and shadow, and of my own journey from outcast to leader. Lyra stood beside me, her serpent scales shimmering like dark glass streaked with ash gray, her sharp green eyes reflecting the dawn as she offered a steadying nod. Eldrin, the elder whose wisdom had guided me through the labyrinth of doubt and politics, was already aloft, his silver hair catching the light like a halo, his gaze as steady and burning as the molten lava that flowed beneath our feet. With a deep breath, I felt the familiar surge of courage ignite within me, a fire stoked by countless trials, and a fierce bond with my serpent. The ground beneath us seemed to pulse, alive with the heartbeat of the tribe and the land itself. Then, with a powerful thrust of wings, we lifted off, the ground falling away as the sky opened wide before us. The thunderous beats of serpent wings filled the air, a symphony of strength and grace that echoed across the volcanic canyons and ash-laden clouds. Below, the fiery rivers of lava wove their slow dance, mirroring the trails of ember and smoke we traced in the sky. The tribe moved as one, a living constellation of fire and flight, our serpents weaving through the dawn like threads in a tapestry of hope. As we soared higher, the weight of my past, the shame of my childhood fall. The loneliness of exile felt distant and diminished, replaced by a fierce sense of belonging I had never dared to hope for. Lyra's presence beside me was a steady anchor, a reminder that trust and loyalty could burn brighter than any flame. Our serpents twisted and danced in perfect harmony, the unspoken bond between rider and beast reflecting the bond between us. Eldrin's voice rose above the wind, carrying ancient blessings and words of wisdom that seemed to kindle the very air around us. His eyes, molten and wise, met mine in a moment of unspoken understanding, a passing of the torch, a recognition of the courage that had brought me here. The ceremonial flight was more than a display. It was a declaration. We were no longer fractured by fear or suspicion. We were united by fire, flight, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the skies and in our hearts. As we spiraled and soared, the volcanic landscape beneath us transformed from a place of danger and exile into a realm of possibility and new beginnings. Landing back among the tribe, the roar of approval and celebration washed over me, a tide of acceptance and hope that filled every corner of my being. I looked to Lyra and Eldrin, to the faces of my people, and for the first time, I felt truly home. Yet even as the cheers rang out, a quiet question lingered in the back of my mind. How would this fragile peace hold against the storms yet to come? For now, though, the skies of Ashara were alive with promise, and I was ready to lead us into whatever dawn awaited beyond the ash and smoke. The flight had ended, but our story was far from over. And as the sun rose higher, casting its fiery glow across the land, I knew that our courage borne on wings and tempered in flame would be the light to guide us forward. With the tribe united and the rare serpent soaring beside me, I was no longer the outcast. I was the flight of the brave. The sky above Ashara was painted with the heavy hues of dusk, the molten reds and burnt oranges bleeding into the darkening ash-laden clouds. Standing at the edge of the tribal gathering ground, I could feel the restless energy of my people weaving through the air like the serpents that soared above us. The rare serpent I had bonded with, a magnificent creature with shimmering scales that caught the last flickers of sunlight, coiled silently behind me, a living symbol of the fragile hope and fierce power that my leadership now embodied. The murmurs of dissent were unmistakable. Some of the elders, their faces etched with years of tradition and skepticism, exchanged wary glances. Whispers of doubt clung to the smoky air. Could the outcast truly guide us beyond the scars of our past? I took a deep breath, letting the heat from the nearby volcanic vents warm my skin, steadying my heart against the tide of uncertainty. This was the moment where courage mattered more than ever. Kaelin, Lyra's voice broke through the murmurs, steady and clear. She stepped forward, her sharp green eyes locking onto mine with unwavering trust. You have earned your place among us, not just through the bond you share with the serpent, but through the fire in your heart and your willingness to face what others would flee. Her words were a balm, but I knew the path ahead was still riddled with shadows. The political fractures within our tribe, the old wounds that had festered since my fall years ago, were not easily healed by speeches or displays of strength. They required understanding, humility, and the courage to confront the parts of myself I had long tried to hide. Later, as the tribe dispersed to their homes nestled among the jagged cliffs and steaming vents, I found myself walking beside Lyra down to the ash-streaked river. The water, dark and cool despite the fiery land, reflected the stars beginning to prick the twilight sky. Do you think they will ever truly accept me? I asked her quietly. The question lay bare like an open wound. She paused, her braided hair catching the faint light, her eyes searching mine. Acceptance isn't given, Kaelin. It's earned every day with every choice, every act of bravery and honesty. You've come far, but the journey isn't over. I'm here, beside you, every step. Her words carried a weight that stirred something deep within me, hope, mingled with the aching vulnerability of needing someone to stand with me. It was a fragile hope, yet it was enough to ignite the fire that had been smoldering inside. The next morning, Eldrin summoned me to the ancient cavern carved into the volcanic rock, a place where the walls bore the stories of our ancestors in serpent-shaped reliefs and glowing embers. The flickering firelight danced on his silver hair and molten lava eyes as he spoke. Our history is not one of unbroken peace, Eldrin said, his voice low and filled with the wisdom of ages. It is forged in fire and flight, in conflict and reconciliation. You carry that legacy now, Kaelin. But it is not just the past that defines us. It is what we choose to become. I traced the serpent carvings with my fingers, feeling the pulse of the tribe's spirit intertwined with mine. In that moment, the weight of leadership settled not as a burden, but as a mantle I was ready to claim. Yet, peace was a fragile thread, stretched thin by the ever-present threat of Enrafang. As the sun climbed higher, I encountered Torin near the volatile edge of the volcano, a silent emissary whose lean frame and watchful eyes spoke of the restless tension between our peoples. Kaelin, he said, his voice rough but measured. The fires of Ashara burn hot, and so does the hatred between us. But even in flame, there can be light. The Emberfang watch, waiting for a sign. Your strength is a challenge and a chance. Our exchange was charged with unspoken history and the possibility of change. The rumble beneath our feet echoed the uncertainty of the future, but also the promise that even old enemies might find a new path. That night, as I lay beneath the volcanic stars, the embers of my past glowed fiercely, not as scars to hide, but as flames to guide me forward. With Lyra's steadfast support and Eldrin's ancient wisdom, I was ready to face whatever came next. For the tribe, for the serpents, for the sky itself. And as the first light of dawn crept over the ash-covered peaks, I knew that my journey was far from over, but that I had finally begun to soar. The embers of old grievances still smoldered within the tribe, their whispers a constant reminder of the fragile peace we sought to build. Yet, beneath the surface tension, a quiet transformation was underway. I was no longer the outcast who had fallen from grace. I was a leader tempered by fire and flight, bound to my serpent and my people by a courage born in the crucible of adversity. Together with Lyra and Eldrin, I prepared to face the final trials that would either fracture our tribe once more or unite us in a bond stronger than any volcanic fury. The skies of Ashara awaited, vast and unpredictable, but no longer a realm of fear. They were a canvas for the future we would claim, one flight, one fire, one heartbeat at a time. As the wind stirred the ash and carried the distant cries of serpents soaring free, I felt the fierce bonds that tethered me to this land and to those I loved. The past had shaped me, but it would not define me. I was ready to rise, to lead, and to ignite the dawn of a new era. The skies above Ashara, once thick with ash and turmoil, had softened into a tranquil canvas brushed with the warm hues of dusk. Standing on the highest ridge of the volcanic land, I felt the cool wind teasing my dark hair, carrying with it the scent of molten earth and distant smoke. Below, the rare sky serpent I had come to know so intimately coiled beneath me, its scales shimmering faintly in the dying light. This was no longer the fearful creature I had first bonded with, but a proud symbol of the new era we were about to embark upon. Tonight, the volcanic skies would witness not just a flight, but a promise that defiance and courage had forged something enduring from the ashes. Lyra's footsteps were soft as she approached, the gentle rustle of her braided hair catching the last rays of the sun. We stood side by side beneath the ancient flame tree, its gnarled branches still glowing faintly from the festival's embers. For a moment, words failed us. The journey we had endured together was etched deeply into our shared silence. Her green eyes, sharp and steady as ever, held a warmth that pierced even the lingering shadows of my doubt. "Kaelin," she breathed, voice low and steady, "you've carried us all through the fire." I smiled, the weight of years of isolation lifting with her words. "It's not just me," I replied, reaching out to clasp her hand. "It's all of us, the tribes, the serpents, the bonds we've rekindled." That night, the valley bloomed alive with flames and voices. From every corner of Ashara, tribes gathered, sky serpent riders, Emberfang, and others who once eyed each other with suspicion now stood shoulder to shoulder. Above us, serpents soared in eloquent arcs, weaving an aerial tapestry that celebrated survival and unity. The elders' voices rose in ancient chants, weaving history and hope into the crisp night air. Eldrin, his silver hair glowing faintly under the moonlight, placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "This is the beginning, Kaelin. Flight is freedom, but unity is our true strength." As the ceremony drew to a close, I climbed atop my serpent, feeling its powerful muscles ripple beneath me. The wind roared to life, and with a powerful leap, we ascended into the boundless sky. Ash and smoke fell away behind us, replaced by the infinite blue above. The air filled with the exhilarating rush of freedom, the fire within me blazing brighter than ever. This flight was more than a journey through the clouds. It was a soaring testament to courage, to belonging, and to the fierce bonds that could never be broken. As we climbed higher, the volcanic peaks shrinking below, I felt my heart swell with a fierce hope. The tribes of Ashara had faced fire and fury, but through courage and unity, we had risen anew. The skies were reborn, and so was I. Ahead lay endless possibilities, uncharted horizons where trust and flight would define our future. And with Lyra and Eldrin by my side, I knew we could face whatever storms awaited together. But as the wind whispered secrets of distant lands, I wondered, how would I nurture this fragile peace, and what new challenges would test the fire within me next? For now, though, there was only the sky, the serpent beneath me, and the boundless freedom of flight. The journey was far from over, but tonight we soared as one, beyond ash, beyond smoke, into the promise of a brighter dawn.